Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you are looking after yourselves. You're probably wondering what could this new episode be on? And this new episode is a part of our newly added segment. We've teased it for a couple of months, but we're officially launching it with this episode, Behind the Curtain. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, or for anyone who didn't see the post, no worries. We're here to enlighten you about what it could be. And essentially, Behind the Curtains is our newly added segment where we go into deeper, more specific based conversation about certain topics that we've previously spoken about, some new ones, some that we've briefly touched on. And today's one is all about placements. Now we brought on a fan favorite of the show. We brought on Riham. So Riham, if you could just say hi to everyone.
Hi, it's great to be back.
Oh, thank you. It's great to have you back. So me and Riham today will be talking about placement, how we found placements. We've both been on placements, and we're just going to talk about, the placement experience. We know that some students might be wondering whether they should or shouldn't, or what are the benefits, the pros and cons, how people on placement found their placement. We're just going to dive into that today. So we're going to kick things off, I guess, by talking about essentially like what generically our placements were. So Riham, if you're happy for me to do it, I can go first if you want.
Yeah, please.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. So I did a summer and a year placement. So for anyone who doesn't know, I probably should have started with this. A placement is essentially sort of like an internship that you do as a part of your degree. You can do it for undergrad or postgrad, but essentially it can be either a 6 month, a 3 month, or a year bit of professional work. So usually, students prefer to do the paid option because that's just an extra bit of income, but you can do voluntary ones as well. And essentially, these allow you to, I guess, see the knowledge you've learned on your course in being applied in the workplace. And there's a number of organizations, especially at Brunel, that, we have special connection to that offer placements, and we'll be diving into that in a bit later. But yeah, I did a summer one, which was 3 months, and then I did a year one literally like straight afterwards. And I'll get into more about how I found that and, the pros and cons of that as a whole. So my summer one was with the Environment Agency, and it was just working on, I worked with like one main team in central London, but then I got to work in our like different offices. I got to speak to different people about the work that they did. I got to work on, like social media stuff, as well as, environmental management and things like that. So that was really fun. The year placement was at Brunel, so I did it at my university, and that was with the STEM team there. So that was working with young children to essentially promote STEM. So we did like different workshops and different activities. We would go to schools. Obviously, I should have said this was all pre-COVID. Well, at least the start was. When COVID hit, we did more of like online stuff. But yeah, it was basically really fun. I really enjoyed both. And I'll be diving a bit more into that later. But Riham, could you let our listeners know a bit more about your placement?
Yeah, so I did something similar. I did a summer placement, and now I'm on a year-long placement. With this summer placement, it's actually a scheme provided by Brunel, and essentially it was only like 3 months, and it's paid, which was great, obviously a little bonus. And what you do is you just apply for a bunch of placements. They gave you help with CV writing, interview skills, and just kind of preparing you for the placement experience. So I managed to get a great placement working for Brunel as the Brunel Buddies assistant. So if any of you listeners know and you were part of the Brunel Buddies scheme, you might know me. But it was a great placement. There was a lot of admin work, a lot of organization, social media posts, and just like event organizing, putting on like social events and stuff like that. It was brilliant. It was great because it was kind of just encouraging people to volunteer, encouraging people to form bonds with people they might not usually form bonds with. So that was great, and it really prepared me for the whole year-long placement. So after that, I didn't really have that many conversations with like the careers section of Brunel. It was mostly just done through that scheme for the 3-month placement. So once it came to actually applying for the year-long placement, I remember I started talking to the career section of Brunel, and let me tell you, absolutely amazing. I literally handed in my CV and it was just transformed into something completely different. Like, I genuinely felt like I was ready to apply for graduate roles with the CV. So I was given help with interviews, kind of narrowing down my choices. Just a little background, I am doing life sciences, just to refresh memories, but it's basically just a course where you study all areas of life science, and then you just pick what you want to major and minor in. So I'm majoring in infection and immunology and computer science. And this really helped because I was quite indecisive, actually, when it came to what kind of careers I wanted to pursue. So when it came to applying for actual placements, I found myself going through the kind of data science route, which I didn't really have that much experience in, but it was definitely something I was interested in after kind of doing my course. So I applied for 3 different placements, and I managed to get the one that I really wanted at GSK. And it's going great so far. So I work as a data scientist, as a part of a great team. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Riham. And I think, I think before we go on, we've talked about them before. The PDC, or Professional Development Centre at Brunel, and other universities, they generally do offer huge support for students looking to do placements. I know, like literally, when you were saying that, they helped you transform your CV, I know that they helped me and a lot of my course mates with theirs as well. Especially making it, I guess, that, professional, because obviously, when you're applying for these placements, like some of them aren't just like, generic, oh, they're only offered to like students or anything. Some of these were like, essentially like full-time jobs with like a year-long contract, for example. So yeah, it is good to know that your university is supporting you. And yet I think 100% Brunel's PDC, if you haven't checked it out, please do. The great thing about it is if you are a group graduate, you can use it up to 3 years after you've graduated. So please do make sure of it. And they do things like, your CV checks. They can help with like making your LinkedIn look more professional. They can give you advice about like interviews and do interview prep with you. Especially, I know we're easing down on whether it's going to be in-person interviews or online interviews or phone call interviews, but they do help on all 3, which is really good. And yeah, it is an amazing service to use. So I think thank you Riham for highlighting that. That's definitely a good way to start off the episode. We've got to ask, and Riham, I'm going to let you answer this one first. Is why did you decide that you wanted to do a placement? Because obviously, and I guess a good thing to highlight is placements aren't compulsory. So for anyone who didn't know, you don't have to do a placement. You choose during your degrees whether you want to. But yeah, essentially, Riham, why did you want to do a placement?
Honestly, I think university is quite a stressful experience. It's great and all, but there's a lot of pressure and it's kind of non-stop almost. So I saw the placement as kind of a break and a way to kind of remind me of why I am going through uni, why I'm going to complete it. Because 3 years, 4 years, however long your course is, it's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, especially if you're coming straight out of education and jumping straight into uni. I didn't have that gap year, but I felt like kind of going through employment essentially would help me stay on track and understand what I wanted to pursue after uni. As I said before, like my course was great for me because I was quite indecisive. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do and I didn't have the chance to explore it. I think this is quite common for a lot of the youth nowadays. They'll go into degrees that are quite broad or vague or, have got a great title, but they don't actually see the greater side of the world. They don't see past their university degree. So I really wanted something to kind of broaden my horizons. And that's why I decided to do the placement. I felt like it was a great break for me. I feel like I'm learning so many more skills than I would in comparison to just doing uni solely, because you learn like the theory at uni, but kind of applying it is not really taught. And if they do try and teach it, it won't be as great as you actually doing it for a job. So that's why I decided to continue the placement.
That is so true. 100%. I think especially at university, a lot of the stuff you learn and you're just like, how, like, I don't know if you felt like this, Riham, but like, there are times when you learn stuff and you're just like, I don't see how this is like relevant to like what I'll do when I work, or like how this could even lead to like, a career by doing. I don't know. Did you feel like that?
100%. I would spend, so for my course, there are certain aspects, and I'm sure other people experience this as well, where they really get into like the theory, or they'll break it down to the really like fine details.
Yeah.
And it is so difficult to comprehend, like, how will I actually be using this in my work environment? And it's just more so they're laying down the foundation. And it's like that knowledge is just kind of, floating around in your head. So when it does come to work, it's so much easier to understand now that you've got that a foundation. But definitely, no, there are times in lectures where I'm like, will I be using this? Do I understand, like what's the reason? But my placement's definitely kind of proven that it is useful. Just to like kind of confirm, like bring in a little bit more detail. My placement, I am a data scientist, but I'm also working in kind of infection and immunology. So it's literally like the best of both worlds. It's like almost a complete replica of what I'm doing in my course.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing about placements, is that it can help you to, I guess, like see that connection. Because I know, especially, so like for me, I'll briefly go on why I did a placement and then talk about this. So the reason why I did a placement, similar to Riham, was, it came to, so from the start, I was just like, I didn't know placements was an option. So I finished my first year, and then my friends had said that they'd done like a placement with the Environment Agency. I asked them how they found it. They said it was good. And it came to my second year, and I was just like, I could do a placement year if I wanted to, or I could do like one over the summer to just, because I was just like, it is good to get, that bit of work. I wasn't really going to do anything else over the summer anyways. So I was just like, yeah, just doing a bit of work over the summer is a good way to, like see my course in real life, in the real world. And yeah, essentially for me, it was just a simple case of just, like looking for placements, like even so I would say for me, I don't know if you found this, possibly you found this as well, Riham, is I know for me, looking for my year long placement was a lot harder than the 3-month one. Because originally I had just planned to do like the 3-month one. But then I was just like trying to find the right year-long placement for me. And I know that some universities, like Brunel, for example, has their own like careers like hub, where they put up jobs that organizations in the local community, or sometimes within like the Brunel alumni network, let them know about. So I don't know if you felt like that, Riham, but I know for me, definitely trying to find a year placement was a lot harder. But yeah, was that the same for you?
I would actually say the opposite.
The opposite.
Yeah. So finding my 3-month placement, I didn't use the PDC. So it was just solely like the scheme. I would love to tell you what the scheme is, but it's just completely left my head now.
No, that's all right.
But if I do remember, I'll let you know. But it was quite difficult. I remember I was applying for it was a lot. There was a lot of applications going out. And it was almost like near the end of the summer. I remember I had like my interview, I think maybe late July. And I was literally going to start the next week. They were like, great, can you start next week? And I was like, okay, great, let's go. So it was really last minute, whereas the year long, I had about 3 applications. I started around September, and then I think the last one I did was in October. And that's just because when it comes to like the pharmaceutical industry, which was what I was mostly applying for, they've got quite a short deadline. So I think they usually close the applications way before December. But yeah, like it was a short time period, and the application process for the year-long ones were a lot more difficult because you've got like a test, you've got to put in a CV, then you've got to write like paragraph answers, and then you've got an interview. So it is a longer process, but the actual like initial kind of putting your applications out there wasn't as hard as me kind of trying to secure the 3-month one, which was really difficult.
No, I completely get, because I know with me, when I did the so I think, yeah, I probably should have stated that I know I mentioned at the start that some, especially for Brunel students listening, that Brunel has, especially for some of its courses, highlights some of the key placements that they've got with organizations. So one of them is the Environment Agency. I think they said like 15 placements are offered. I don't know, with COVID and the pandemic, I don't know how that's currently going. But there was, when I was in my second year, there were like 15 placements given to Brunel students from both masters and undergrad. It wasn't specifically for my course. So they said, especially because my course was new, only started in 2017. So this had been going on for like ages, this Environment Agency agreement with placements. And essentially they were saying that, hey, your environmental scientist working with the Environment Agency would be like the ideal job. It would be maybe where you're thinking about looking afterwards. So there was a lot of like push to, not like you are forced to do it, but more of like an encouragement that, hey, if you can't find a placement, this is it. So I applied. I think funnily, again, showing that, the placement journey is different for everyone. The year long one was a lot easier, like application process wise, than the 3-month one. That mainly, I guess, was because it was at Brunel. So it wasn't like an official position. It's like a placement student one that, you're normally competing against other students. So I think they've just made that one easier. But the Environment Agency one, like I had to do, so you first did an application process. Then after the application process, you had to do an interview. Then after the interview, you had to do like a team interview. So I guess for anyone who doesn't know about that, usually, I don't know if they've ever done this online. They might have. I might be wrong. But essentially, the way that it works is it's more like you as a group are given a task. So I know my group was given, the classic, here's some pieces of card. We want you to build a tower that can go as high as possible without having, any of you holding on to it for support. It can just support itself. And we were just like, okay, this doesn't sound like too bad. And I had a really good group, but obviously you're being assessed. So you have to like keep thinking of the mindset of, I need to like enjoy the task. I need to like show that I'm an active member of a team. I can help. I'm not just sitting there, not doing anything. So everyone was, trying to lead, but also it's about showing that you're enjoying it. So once I've done that, I then waited a few months and then heard back and I got it. So I first got my 3-month one, my 3-month placement, and that was really good, and I was happy about that. But then, yeah, like I said before, I wanted to do a year one, but I couldn't find one for me. And literally, I tell this story. When I tell the story, people find it hard to believe that it was only like it was just amazing that this happened. That I got an email, I think the day or maybe the week before. The week of, or either like 2 days before the placement that I wanted to do at Brunel closed. So I just got an email and they were just like, hey, we've extended the deadline for this placement. If you're interested, please like click on this link to view more. And I was just like, this sounds actually really interesting. I clicked on it, saw like the work that the STEM team does and what I would be doing. And I was like, wow, I said, like, I've done similar work before. I really enjoy like doing workshops as a whole. I've been on STEM workshops as when I was younger before anyways. And I like, that was fun to do as a child on it, but to be actually the one delivering that, well, that'll be really good. So yeah, literally it was like a few days before, like you had to say like whether you were doing a year placement or not. I applied, I got past the application stage, did an interview. And then, yeah, the interview process is kind of weird. We've previously had, Catherine on here, and she was, talking about doing a Brunel placement. And yeah, it's definitely different to like a professional one. Not like in a bad way, like it's still the same like testing, but it is, I guess, kind of weird because you're thinking, these are the guys that I'm currently studying under, but they're also going to be my boss. So yeah, it can be a bit weird like that, but it was really good. I enjoyed the interview. And then, yeah, same day found out that I got the job. So yeah, it was really good to get that. But I know that, and I'm sure it probably is the same for you, Riham, that like when I got both of them, like I was a bit concerned that because the year-long one started in June, and obviously the Environment Agency one started in June because it's only for the summer. So I was a bit like, oh my gosh, if I tell Brunel that, hey, I don't want to, like, can I move? Because I said, like, I still want to do it. I don't want to like quit or anything. I want to do it, but I just want it to start later. And then they would literally just like, oh yeah, that's perfectly fine. Like, my manager was really supportive. She said, hey, I just want to let you know that as long as you're happy to still do the job, we're happy to work around you. And I said, yes, I'd love to do it. So yeah, literally, so it was the Friday that I finished with the environment agency. The Monday, like the next Monday, was when I started with Brunel. So I literally like went from one job straight to another, which I would say for anyone who's looking to have like a bit of a summer break can be a bit hard, especially if you want to break between a year and a summer placement. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. And yeah, it kind of leads on to the next point I wanted to raise, which is, I guess, the pros and cons of doing placements. Because like I said, we're not saying that like placements are the best thing in the world, or placements are for everyone, or you have to do a placement if you go to university. But essentially, I guess, me and Riham will just be like, I guess, saying it as it comes to us. But essentially, I don't know how you feel, Riham, because I think we've spoken a lot about the benefits, like, gaining that professional experience, applying your knowledge, wearing that professional hat and working in an office, sticking to like a schedule and learning more about how like organizations work. But I guess for you, well, yeah, essentially, Riham, what do you think some of the cons are? Because obviously nothing's perfect. So what do you think some of the cons are?
I would say, okay, some of the cons, first of all, you could end up hating it. But then it could be a good thing as well, because now you know what you don't want to do. So, you still gain something from that. Another con, I'd probably say, like, it just might not align. That's the only thing I'd probably say. It just might not align with what you want to do. But
that's true.
That's exactly the reason why you should do it, because especially if it's included in your course, why would you want to take that kind of risk doing that after uni?
True. That is so true.
Especially if you're like signing like a contract, like this is an actual, it's a commitment, it's dedication. Other than that, maybe kind of like your delayed graduation. I know people are quite anxious about timing, like, oh, I have to go in uni straight after straight after college, and I have to finish it by this time or whatnot. So just that kind of anxiety of, oh, I might not be graduating with my friends. Yeah. I can definitely say I feel that way now, but would I go back in time and change me like doing placement? No, I wouldn't. Really... I don't think I have anything else other than that.
Yeah, it is a hard one. I think like the thing with placements is they're very dependent, like, I guess not only like where you work, but obviously like your team as a whole as well. Because like I said, I was very fortunate with both the environment agency and the Brunel one. And I'm sure, Riham, it was the same for you, because you said that you enjoyed the summer one that you did, as well as the year one as well. So I'm sure, I mean, I should check first before I say you're sure.
I mean,
you had a good team, man.
Yeah, so when it came to the Brunel one, honestly, it was so hard to leave. That's the only thing I could say. So I was grateful because they actually extended my contract. It was way longer than 3 months. But I enjoyed it so much. The team was so lovely. The only thing I can say is I literally felt like at home. So they're really lovely, and I hope to kind of help them out after I finish this whole placement. And with my new placement now, I have no complaints about my team. They come from all walks of life. It's just lovely talking to them, because you hear like their stories and how long they've been working there for. Some people have been there for like a couple of months. Some of them have been there for like decades. Wow. It's honestly great just to kind of gain all that experience. The only thing I would say is, but this is literally just due to the pandemic, I did my summer placement from home. So I didn't actually ever get to see any of them in person. But definitely once I go back to uni, I'll be putting that on my like priority list to kind of give them a little visit. I have seen my placement people now, but I don't go into office all that often as well. So I haven't been able to have that kind of face-to-face interaction as much. But yeah, if it wasn't for the pandemic, I probably would, and that would have made it better. But Yeah, great team overall though.
Yeah, no, and it's so true. Like having a good team can really make like the placement fun. So I know, especially with the environment agency one that I did, it was really I really liked that like my team were quite chill. But even like as a whole, like they were always happy. I guess that's one of the things that I really did like is that I didn't really feel like, oh, you're the placement student, like we're just gonna dump everything on you, or oh, you're the placement student, so we can't like I guess talk about like how we find work. We have to make it seem like, oh, working is the funnest thing. Like they're so fun. Like this is great. They were very like real, and I think that that's really key to like a placement. Like you don't want
Yeah,
it.
that's
You don't want to be
definitely
sold like a fake version of like not only like the placement, but also like work in general. And yeah, I think like you said, meeting people from like all walks of life, sorry, is really key. It's really interesting. And even
it really
like
is, yeah.
yeah, and it's so good because I know, especially with the environment agency one of the things that I truly treasured from that placement was the opportunity to like shadow different people for a day. So I met a guy who worked within the media team for DEFRA. Um, and I just asked him like, oh hey, like we'd seen each other a couple of times. So I was just like, hey, I was just like, what do you do? And he was just like, oh, I work in the media team. I was like, wow. So you do like video editing, all of this and all that. And he was like, yeah. And I was just like, oh, well, I really would love to get into video editing. I said, like, I kind of do videos at the moment, but like, I haven't done it for ages. And I just really want to know like what software you use and like how you've done this. And he was like, oh, you use this software. We're actually using this and I can like teach on it. And like that like led to me shadowing them for like 2 days, which was really good. And I learned like all this like cool equipment and stuff. But then I also got to shadow the flood team. So I got to work with, so obviously my team was the planning team. So like if someone wants to build a new house or a new building, they get in contact with my team. So I got to work with the planning team, the flood team, sorry. And they were saying like, I got to see like how they deal with flooding, how the environment agency like tracks flooding, the different scenarios, that happen when it comes to like building stuff. So if you want to build a house, what especially in London, because London suffers a lot of flooding, like where can you build in London that's good or bad? And it was just really interesting. And I really loved it. I really valued the placement. I told like people who I know in years below me that were doing environmental sciences that like, hey, if you genuinely just want to do something for the summer, it is a good thing to do. But yeah, I've just said like, and I'll say at the end of the episode as well, they're like, just make the most of your placement. But yeah, with the STEM one that I did, the team there as well were like so good. It sort of leads into our next question, but I won't announce it too early. But like I really like that, and especially because, and I'm sure Riham, you probably could agree with this. It didn't feel like, especially because I know from some friends that have done placements, especially at Brunel, sometimes you can feel like even though you're a staff member, you're still treated like a student. And I'm not saying like that never happened with me. But what I would say is that my team were really supportive, that I never really felt like a student. And like even like afterwards, like I still don't, which I really appreciate, because obviously, like, yes, technically I'm still a student. And I'm not saying like, oh yeah, I'm better than other students because I did a placement with Brunel or whatever. But I'm saying like it is nice that when you're doing it, that people see you as like another member of staff and not like, oh, because you're a student, you have to do like all this work. And we don't really care. And my manager was always supportive of that. She was always very outspoken, always like helping to support me, encouraging me to like do my own things and lead on events. I cherished the events that I led on. She supported me to lead, like create my own event and do it. So yeah, it was really, really fun. But yeah, I'm sure Riham, was it the same for you? Did you find that like you weren't necessarily treated as the student version of yourself, but rather they were just like, no, you're a staff member. You're no longer Riham the student. You're Riham the staff member, and you've like there's you feel like that change in, I don't know how to explain it, but like you there's like a change in how people see you.
At Brunel, like I said, I had a great team. I really felt like it was like a mini family. they did not once kind of treat me as like a lesser employee or like a part-time, worker. If anything, they were just super accommodating. So yeah, they did take into consideration I am a student. So if I did say, oh, I've got like exams to revise for, or I've got coursework to hand in, they would give me that kind of time off or that space, and they wouldn't be kind of bombarding me with emails or whatnot. So they were just extra considerate and made sure that I prioritized my studies before work, obviously. But other than that, it was almost like, we trust you, we know that you'll do this well. If you need help, we're here for you. But they really gave me that kind of confidence to kind of take lead those events, send out emails by myself. It was really comforting to know that, okay, I can actually do this job without questioning if I'm doing anything wrong.
Sorry. Yeah. No, go
ahead. With my placement now, I do have to say that I remember having a conversation with the careers department, and I was actually told, like, if you're working at a big pharma, you might feel like quite small because it's so big. I didn't take that into consideration. So I always wanted to kind of like work for this company, and I was grateful that I got it. But when it comes to kind of like the larger meetings, you do realize that it is a really, really big company, and some of the things that people are talking about are so like highly specific that you almost feel like you can't speak, because it's just like they're doing something I have absolutely no idea. Like, if you thought that your course was highly detailed, just wait until you see these people that are like literally solely working on this one specified thing. So when it comes to like kind of having those conversations, even though it is opening your eyes to the different sections of the company, you do really feel like, oh, okay, I shouldn't be able to, like, I shouldn't ask questions about this because I have no knowledge on it. And, this might just be the basics, or you do kind of feel a bit, insecure when it comes to asking those kind of questions. But because I've got such a great team, I can just ask them questions. And it's kind of comforting to know sometimes that they might not even know the answer themselves. So yeah, that's what I have to say. I never felt like I've been treated lesser, but working at a bigger company, you do feel like, okay, there is a lot more going on than what I see.
And I think that's like, that's so important, because we have a tendency to think that, like, I don't know, like we don't know like what goes on behind the scenes, even like, and I think that's one of the things that like my placement, because even though I worked in the STEM team, like some of my, like, I guess not specifically in the team that I worked in, but some of the teams that I worked like closely with or collaborated with were like teams that do like events on campus. And it's like one of the things that like you as a student never know, like that networking event that you attend, or that event where they bring in all these different like organizations that you can learn, where you can do placements and have graduate jobs afterwards. Like, you never really know as a student like how much work goes into that, and it's like only until you like see it from the member of the staff team, whether that's you as the person organizing it or like working with the person who's organizing it, that you can then really like appreciate all the work that goes into it. And I think it's true. I think like I said at the start, I know that from like personal experience of my own and friends, that not all placements are like this or are like how Riham and I are talking about. Like Catherine was talking about her experience in her episode. And I think it's very key to note that, like, if you aren't enjoying a placement, like what Riham was saying, is that you can speak to your career advisor who is linked to your course. You can like message the PDC. Normally, when you go on a placement, whether it's a year or a summer one, they do have like a contact for you to speak to about any questions, queries, or concerns you have as a student. I know that was one of the things that I had. So I had one of our lecturers was that person, and I like said like, oh, for my placement report, what do I have to include, or things like that. But yeah, no, I definitely would recommend that people do like try and make the most out of it. And remember that every placement is unique. Some are really fun and you have a great team. Some sometimes aren't. But it's all about just making the most. And like what Riham was saying, like understanding that, it can be good, it can be bad. Now, before we go, we've got one more thing that we're going to discuss. Now, Riham, I know technically at this point of recording, you haven't finished your placement, but I guess maybe we'll say, like, from what you've done so far in your year placement and what you did in your summer one, what was like your most favorite moment? It can be like something not necessarily, oh, I worked on this. It could just be like learning new skills. It could just be, being able to work in a professional organization. Like, what was your most favorite moment?
Working for Brunel Buddies, I feel like the event organization, talking to the buddies, the training that we've done, just kind of organizing everything and then seeing it through. And also like the feedback forms, which is not really talked about that much, but hearing people's response to how things have went, or seeing their kind of comments and saying like, oh, or like just receiving emails about, oh my God, like, thank you, this was a great event. It kind of just gave you that boost of confidence that all the hard work that you put in has paid off, especially if you're doing it alone or just having interaction, if you're working by yourself, even if you've got team, if you're putting things out solely, getting that feedback that you're doing a great job was really kind of like a confidence booster for me. Working at my placement now, I am almost halfway through. I don't know what happened. Time has literally flown by. It's actually made me think now, I really, really should like try and cram more things in, just because I feel like by the end of it, it's going to be like July and the August whilst like when I'm done basically. So I'm really trying to kind of just take it in day by day. But the weeks are flying by. I think from this placement, what I've gained the most is a whole lot of confidence. I went in, so I've never done Python before, just, I do a bit of computer science at uni, and it was just like an introduction to Java, and then also like bioinformatic analysis using R. R wasn't my strongest point. It was only one term. Computer science was absolutely difficult. I absolutely hate Java. But when I did this placement, I had to use Python, which I've never used before. And I would not to toot my own horn, but I'd probably say I'm a bit of a Python expert now. So
you heard it here first.
I've definitely developed like a love for it. It's definitely like my preferred coding language. I feel like I can get things done, and like kind of present my information. Speaking of, I had like one of my first presentations, like the whole department. I was so nervous going in, but by the end of it, I was like, oh my God, that was great. And obviously hearing that feedback of all this work that you've been doing, like these months of training and all of this data analysis, it actually proves useful, which is crazy because it's like I was saying, sometimes you do feel a bit small because you're like, wow, there's so many other things going on in the company. Yeah. So when you get that chance to kind of present your work and you hear people going, oh, this is actually interesting, it's like, oh, I remember this is important. Like, I'm not just doing work for the sake of doing work. Like it's actually useful. It will be used later on in the years, or, people ask for this information later on. So it's definitely a confidence booster. It definitely reminds you of, you're not just doing it for yourself. Like at uni, you're doing the work for yourself. You're not doing it for your lecturers. You're not doing it for your parents. You're doing it for you. Nobody else is there to motivate you as much as you are. But at work, because there's a reason for it, like you're getting paid, yeah, but the information that you're analyzing or the work that you're producing will be used later on in the company, which is kind of mind-blowing. You don't really realize it because I feel like the university puts you into that mindset that everything that you're doing is for yourself. But whilst you're on placement, it's like it's not just for you, it's also for the company.
Yeah, no, I think that's a key thing, because I think, like you said, even like if you do like a placement and you have to do a placement report at the end of it, or you don't, like at the end of the day, a placement is something to benefit you. And I think, like you said, that's a really key thing. Maybe that can be our like little like, I guess, highlight of the episode, that if anyone's taking a message away, that it is that it's all about, the placement is essentially all about you. You decide how much you want to get out of your placement. You can decide whether you want your placement to be like super fun. You can decide if you want to, tackle loads of work or what you're usually given or things like that, or you can decide whether you want to develop yourself. But yeah, it's all about you. So yeah, no, thank you, Riham. That's perfect. Yeah, I think for me, for the 3-month placement, it's kind of hard. I would say like, ooh. Okay, I'm gonna have to pick two. So for that one, I would say like the opportunity to like go to different like we had like different like day trips as a team. So like they weren't necessarily like, oh, we're going to, see where sites like a building's going to be built and we're going to see like how it works. Like we did have one trip like that and that was okay. It wasn't bad or anything. But I did like that we had like some trips where it was just like, oh, hey, like we actually just want to take you guys around this like park that we worked on a couple of years ago. Because we want you guys to see like how environmentally friendly it is or how much it's changed since it was like this before. Or we had like one trip around like central London where we just went, what is it called? It's like I think it's near Canary Wharf. But there's like a bit of beach land you can like go on, and that was like really cool because I didn't know that there was. I mean, it's not like I said, it's not like a beach like you would lie on it per se, but it's like it is something cool to like check out and see, and it is really good. But yeah, I think that would probably be the first thing. And then the second thing is, like I said, the working with the media team and the flooding team from DEFRA, seeing like what other people within organizations do. The media team, especially because like all the stuff we do through like Pick Up the Mic, all the content creation stuff I do, I learned a lot of it during that time. Like I know it wasn't loads of time. Like I only spent 2 days with them. But I got to learn about like all this different like things they used to promote like for professional videos, like how cameras are used, how like the equipment you can buy. And it was really good because it showed me like, I guess this is stuff that, I could use in the future. So that was really good. And I'd say from the Brunel one, again, it's very hard to choose. So I'm gonna have to pick two. I'm gonna have to pick a top two. But I would say the first thing is like being able to like better my skills as like a manager. So the reason why I say that was because the team had like student ambassador, or they're called STEM ambassadors, but they're essentially students that, worked under the STEM team. And their job was basically to help set up these events, help to lead stuff. And it was really good because I think it taught me like how to, even though, like I said, I was still a student enrolled at Brunel at the time, I was actually now a staff member. And I think that was one of the things that, like, at the start, I was kind of like worried about because I knew nothing about this team. I didn't know anyone on this team. And here's me thinking that as a like Brunel's, I was a student. I might be a staff member now, but I was a student. So I was kind of thinking that, hey, they don't necessarily have to see me as a staff member because they know that I'm a student. But that was one of the things that I really did like, being able to like learn how to like lead in like a really efficient way, how to address people from a position of leadership in an effective way. I really appreciated like them, like the work that they did and that my manager helped me to do. So yeah, that would be the first thing. The second thing I would say is like, I got to lead on an event. So like Riham was saying about being able to learn how to like organize stuff, how to, plan an event. One of the great things that my manager did was that for both of the placements, they had this as well. They had like it wasn't an official objectives form for the Brunel one, but it was for the EA. But essentially it was like, what do you want at the end of this to come out and say that you've done? And I said, like, one of the things that I definitely would like to do is like to lead on an event. So whether this is like an event that I do myself or like an event that I don't know, like did with using like an event that they did and I helped them to like run it. I just said I wanted to lead on that because I love doing events. Yeah, they can be stressful, they can be a handful, but they're fun. And I think that was one of the key things that I really learned. I got to lead on an event. It went really well. I had brought in like organizations. It was fun. Like I said, it was a lot of work beforehand. But yeah, on the day, it was just really nice to like see all this planning come to life. And yeah, I will always cherish that day and all the help that I received that day. But yeah, I guess before we go, officially the last thing is, Riham, I just want to ask you, if I know you sort of, like I said, perfectly gave it before, but for anyone who's like thinking about doing, whether it's a year placement, a 3-month placement, 6-month placement, whatever, what would be like your one piece of advice that you'd say after hearing like everything we've discussed today, this is like the one thing you need to ensure that you've got sorted out to get ready for placements?
I think the initiative, the reality is job markets are super competitive now. If you don't have a placement and your peers do, you're kind of just eliminating your chance for getting that job. It's almost like they're just going to dismiss your application if you don't have that experience under your belt. So yeah, that's just one thing. Have that initiative. Take a whole, like, be accountable for what you want to do. You know, it's great having a degree. That's literally getting your foot through the door. But having that placement is almost like a security of you're definitely going to get some sort of job opportunity if you complete this placement successfully. So yeah, just take initiative and don't be deterred from the whole time aspect of it or whether you'll hate it or not. You know, I think, especially from Brunel, I've seen a lot of people kind of give presentations on their placements or how it's gone. That's really great as well. Make sure you attend those presentations because you'll hear feedback about how they've experienced it and it might relate to you. You know, you might hear something from them saying like, oh, do you know what? I did like a placement at a lab. This is like from my own experience. I heard loads of people who did like lab placements. I am personally terrible at lab work. So hearing how their lab placements went, I automatically knew I'm going to definitely rule that out for me because I know it's not for me now. So make sure you attend all those placement presentations. Make sure you take initiative and, you know, just think about the future instead of the now or the time frame.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I think the only thing I would add on to that is, you know, be aware that like you don't have to do like a placement solely related to your course. You know, I did environmental science and my year placement was working with children on the theme of STEM. So it's not necessarily, and like my career choice afterwards is not necessarily to go into teaching or education. So it's not necessarily about like doing a placement for the sake of, oh, I just need the job or I'll just need, you know, something to put on my CV or anything like that. But it is a case of like, you want to still have some professional, you know, development that you can show. And I think like Riham highlighted, you know, that there has been a pandemic going on for the last 2 years. The job market has definitely changed from what it would usually be. So it is good to have as much experience and, you know, as much in your back corner that you can say, hey, I'm a good candidate essentially.
Definitely. I do have to emphasize experience is so key. Like you said, you don't have to do a placement in something that's relevant to your degree. I've heard of people who are doing something in like pharmacy and they've gone and done like something to do with marketing and business that's got nothing to do with the pharmaceutical industry. And they've fallen in love with it, you know? You don't have to think of your degree as like a be-all. You can always branch off into something different. And I definitely think that placement year is perfect for it.
Yeah, 100%. And it is a good, you know, you mentioned this before, and it is a good, like, not like, I guess like a trial period, but it is a good thing that you can say, hey, you know, I did a year and I worked in a field that, hey, I wasn't really interested in, you know, it wasn't great, but you know what? I now know that rather than me applying there after I graduate thinking, oh, I did this course, so I have to apply for this job. I can now say, hey, I want to look for something that's the complete opposite of that because I know that that's most likely something that I would like. So yeah, I think that's so true.
100%. Yeah, don't let your degree like define you. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of us start a degree at quite a young age. You know, you might go into something that you were interested in before. A year later, you're not. You know, broaden your horizons, experience things, take on what you can, especially not just placements as well, like volunteering opportunities. You might find that, you know, you volunteer for a company or a charity, and then you're like, great, I want to do this full time, you know?
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that's a good thing to highlight as well, is that even like not necessarily like, yes, like we were saying before, you don't have to do a paid placement, but even if you wanted to do like a paid placement and volunteering, a lot of organizations do let you volunteer on the side. Like if you just say like, oh yeah, I also volunteer at this place, like maybe once or twice a week, or, you know, from this many hours, you can work around a schedule, especially if you're doing like a year placement more so, I would say, rather than a 3-month one, you could work around like a schedule for that. So yeah, definitely take up these things, and they're really good. And yeah, I'd say the last bit of advice for placements that I personally didn't do until literally like the person who was saying like, our placement advisor came in and said like, oh, if you are applying for a placement, you need to have this, is like, and we've mentioned it before, like have a LinkedIn page. It doesn't need to be like amazing, but a LinkedIn page is so, like, I don't know, Riham, if you feel like the same way, but they are useful, right?
They are. I'm probably not the best advocate because I'm terrible when it comes to social media. But LinkedIn, I do need to clean up my page a little bit. Thanks for reminding me. But LinkedIn definitely opens your eyes to like different opportunities that are being presented. But it's also probably the first place that your employers are going to look
100%
at as well. I know when I went for my interviews, I found that like, oh, this person searched you up, or this person, and I'm like, oh, okay, at least there's something there to see.
Exactly.
So definitely fix up your LinkedIn page.
Yeah, and the thing is, like you said, it's not like social media, in the sense of, you have to, I don't know, like post something every day, or, if you don't have a lot of followers, then that's like a bad thing. Like, no, your LinkedIn page is like yours to do with as you please. If you want to add like everyone that's ever come to Brunel University, you're more than welcome to. If you want to like, and I think that's the thing that like shocked me, was we previously had a guest, Laura, who was speaking about graduate opportunities, and she was saying that like the job that she's currently in, she got through LinkedIn. She just messaged this like organization and said, hey, I'd love to work for you, you guys, but I saw on your website you haven't got any new jobs. And they said, oh yeah, but we'll let you know when we do. And they did. She applied, she got the job. Like my I've got friends who like, I guess, especially during the pandemic, especially like last year, sorry, like when they'd finished their degree, and knew they weren't going to do a master's, basically like sent out like email after email after email to like loads of people on LinkedIn saying, hi, I would love to work with your organization. This is a copy of like my CV, or hey, if you'd like a copy of my CV, I'm more than happy to email it to you, but please let me know if you'd like to speak more. And like Riham said, they do check out your LinkedIn page, even on your CV. They check on your CV as well. So yeah, that was one of the things that, especially like going into placements, I had no idea. So I was just like, yes, afterwards, even like to this day, like I try and keep my LinkedIn page as up to date as possible. I try and see if I can like, I don't know, not like, like I said, LinkedIn, you don't have to like post something every day, but sometimes when you're on LinkedIn, you do see like something really interesting, or like a interesting motivational quote or story, or you do see like, one of the things that I saw that my old manager does, is she reposts like when people in her network say, oh, hey, we're looking for like a graduate to do this job, or we've got this job opportunity and we just need someone who's a specialist in, like engineering or marketing or whatever. And she just does that. So I've started to use LinkedIn for that as well. Cause I'm just like, hey, there might be someone, like I might not need it, but heck, there might be someone within my job network that's looking for a job. They specialize in tech and they might see it.
Exactly. Help each other out.
And it's so true. And, people say this like in general, but I think it's been more so highlighted in the last 2 years, is networking is like an easy but very important thing. And I think we sometimes do forget that sending like a LinkedIn request, or not even like just a LinkedIn request, like just like having conversations with people like at events. You might go to a graduate event and just be like, oh, hey, like, are you a graduate? Yeah, I'm a graduate. Like, where did you, like, what did you study? I studied this. Oh, what do you specialize in? Oh, I specialize in this. Oh, I didn't know that. Like, I've got a friend who does that. Like, I think when you hear stories of like people go to networking events and then they meet like their employer there, like they didn't intend to, they were just going because their friends like maybe dragged them along, or, they were just looking to work in another field. But then they met up with someone who, I don't know, like maybe is a family friend, or like maybe, just like, I don't know, they both went to the same university. Like that was one of the things that I loved, and I probably should have mentioned earlier, was with the Environment Agency. A lot of the people there through the Brunel internship scheme that's been there, or the placement scheme that's been there for ages, a lot of people there are from Brunel. So a lot of them were just like, oh, you went to Brunel? I went to Brunel. And I was like, yeah, it's good. They were just like, oh, how's this? And yeah, I think we do have a tendency to forget that like that is an avenue to network.
Yeah. Another thing is, I think obviously university is great because you find people, of like minds, you're studying the same course, but don't shy away from kind of striking up conversations with strangers. Once you put like your foot in the door and you start having that conversation, you might find that you've got lots of interest, or you might just meet your, future employer. But there's definitely, I can understand that some people are nervous before having these conversations, but sometimes you need to get out of your head and get in the conversation.
No, that's so true. And I think, like you said, sometimes we can just be a bit hesitant to understanding we actually should be doing more. We actually should be saying certain things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just being active.
Be active. I definitely know that once, I have it all the time. Before having conversations with people, I always be like, is this the right time to interject? Should I speak now? And then sometimes you just have that moment of confidence where you're like, let's do it. And honestly, it's worked out well so far. There have been some times where I'm like, will I do that again? No. But, an experience is an experience. You learn from it all.
100%.
Especially in this day and age, everybody's about social media. Everybody's behind their phones. We really should kind of encourage each other to talk more face to face. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's just like I said, like there's you have no idea, like you talking to this person, like what it could lead to. And like, I think like you said, like, I'm not saying like, you get on the tube, you got to speak to everyone on the tube and just have a conversation with them, or like go to an event, you have to talk to everyone at an event. Like, no, like, but well, we're not saying like you got to talk to everyone, but you might just like go to an event, you'll see someone just like maybe like chilling by themselves. You might do like group work, for example. And then you'll just be like, oh, hey, like I'm Jeffrey, who are you? Oh, you're John. Great. Nice to meet you. Like, what do you do? And it just starts up a conversation. And like I said, you never know like where that could go. So yeah, I think it's definitely that's a great thing to highlight. Being active is definitely key. But yeah, that's I think that perfectly ends today's first official Behind the Curtain episode. And we've had a great discussion. If you want to know more about Riham, her speaker page will be in the description, so you can check that out. We hope you guys like this. This is something that we're trying to do more episodes of. So if you did like it, please let us know in the comments, or leave a review. We'll put the link to that as well. But yeah, we just want to know if you guys want more discussions like this. Do you want to learn more about placements? Do you want to learn more about other topics we've discussed? And yeah, as always, if you guys like this, a like, comment, and subscribe is really appreciated. If you haven't already, we really would appreciate if you guys could subscribe to our Patreon page, so that way we know that you guys, we can give you guys not only exclusive offers, but you guys will be supporting us up front and center, which we really appreciate. And make sure you click the bell notification if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're not already subscribed to the podcast already on wherever you're listening to it, whether Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss the next episode. And yeah, it's been great to have an amazing conversation with Riham. Thank you, as always, for being an amazing guest host. And yeah, we look forward to everyone to the next episode of Behind the Curtain. So that's bye from us here. Hope you have a nice day. And yeah, look after yourselves.